Hello and welcome to this tribute to Tony Bedeau. The whole community is absolutely saddened by this. And we're just going to talk about sort of our memories. And we've also got loads of Torquay fans who have written in and we're going to read out their memories. Obviously, Tony started as a schoolboy at Chelsea before coming for the Torquay United scheme. And he was just, to have a testimonial after 10 years of service is just unbelievable, which we'll go into more detail as we go through. To start, I just thought I'd read out a few key talkie figures and their thoughts. Helen Chamberlain, feeling the physical pain of this, adored him. He loved the club. He loved playing for Torquay. He was one of us. Michael Westcott, shocking news to receive this morning. Our hearts go out to his family. Tony was one of my absolute favourite players to put on the yellow shirt. It was lovely to see him at Paul Holmes' funeral last summer, and he was full of life. Can't believe we've lost another one so young. Rest in peace. Alex Rowe, so shocked to hear of Bed's sad passing. At his peak, a game changer and a great signing for the 2007-2008 season, where he brought his experience and versatility to the squad. Bucks always said his signings would be both good players and good people, and Bez epitomised this. Rest in peace, Tony. A couple more. Tim Sills, absolutely gutted to hear this. Loved my season with Bez and more of football's proper good guides. Put so much into perspective. Rest in peace, mate. You'll be hugely missed. And Chris Hargreaves, still can't believe this. Bez was a brilliant character and teammate and a fantastic guy. He was one really funny guy and that's how I remember him. Full of charisma. You're a shining star, mate. Love and thoughts to Tony's family's friends. Rest in peace. Worst result, Chris. We'll start with you and your thoughts. We'll go on to Rachel. Rachel, thank you for joining us tonight for it. And then Tom will read out Kelly's corner of all your thoughts. Chris, go for it.
Yeah, I think it's just desperately sad, isn't it? I mean, these things always come as such a shock, don't they, when you hear these things? But it's the age is just it's inconceivable, isn't it? But I mean, I guess I'm of an age where I'm what 3 years younger than him, so I guess I'm of an age where I would have grown up, watching him, and I remember him being very quick, very pacey, very direct. And he kind of in an era of kind of pacey wingers, he was one of those players, and he played in a combination of out wide and further forward, but always had a decent goal return. And I think he was the sort of player. Again, eras change, don't they? And players being at clubs for the length of time that he was at our clubs, not one that happens as much nowadays, I don't think. But I think he epitomised it. I remember him having a trial. It was at Sunderland, wasn't it, where he had a trial, and you thought, blimey, even when we were a football league club, that was a massive thing for him. And I think there's certain. It's amazing how when you get thinking about these things, how you remember certain things, and there's one game that sticks in my mind, and I guess it's because of the rarity of the goal. But I haven't had time to check, but I'm pretty sure it was that Bournemouth game away from home, the one where we got refereed, and then Simon Cliss stuck one in his own top corner in the 94th minute. But he scored our goal that day, and one thing he wasn't known for was his headers. And I remember just a cross coming in, and he just rose from nowhere and planted his bullet header into the top corner, and it was that sort of rarity that it made you kind of celebrate the goal even more, because he wasn't known for his headed goals, and he always enjoyed goals. He always enjoyed scoring goals for Torquay, and I think his love for the club was clear. And you mentioned the testimonial there at the start, Sam, and I think it's, again, for any club to give a player a testimonial is testament to how much they meant, how much they played, and how much they meant to the fans. So yeah, it's the second one of the 97-98 team that I remember well, with the playoff final that have passed since John Gittins, as well. And I guess the main season of that 2004-05 team, that's the pinnacle season, certainly within my era time. And he was in that, and again, he was one of those outstanding attacking players that we had at that time. And just, yeah, you kind of, when you read these things, you just can't. One of those you can't believe it's true. You kind of think, really? And then the club, several hours before the club confirmed what kind of was on social media. So yeah, just desperately sad, and it just makes you reflect, doesn't it, on both life and your football club when you hear news like that.
Lovely put, Chris. Rachel, your thoughts.
Well, um, I think when you look at a footballer, and how fleeting a time a footballer spends at a certain football club, we talk about loan players that come to Torquay United and we fall in love with them. And there's the old adage, isn't there? Do not fall in love with a loan player.
Mhm.
Then we've had players that we're hoping upon hope that they sign another contract with us or stay at the club, and they move on. I think the lifespan, I think of a lot of players that we've seen come and go have been sort of they've signed for 2 years contract and then they've moved on, or gone to league clubs or higher division and stuff. So that's testament to how long Tony Bedeau spent at the club. I mean, it was 11 years. He had the the testimonial, and stayed for 11 years before, finally, I'm not sure which manager it was, who finally sort of released him, if you like, but he went off to, I think, was it Walsall, or went to play in the Midlands. And the fact that whatever happened in Walsall, or I think he maybe had an injury or what have you, but then he came back again, didn't he? I mean, the pull of Torquay United for Tony Bedeau. I mean, he loved it here. The outpouring it isn't just the football community. I mean, I went to work today and I bumped into one of my work colleagues. She's a radiographer, and she said to me, because she knows how much I love football, and she said, Tony Bedeau. And I said, I can't believe it. And she looked visibly upset. And I know she's not a huge football following person. She's probably got friends and family, what have you. But I mean, she obviously knows that I invest a lot of my time in Torquay United, and she was saying about I can't believe it. What and I don't know. Nobody knows the details, but it is a shocking news. And so the fact that he's impacted on people that don't necessarily follow football, they're not necessarily Torquay United fans, but it's that whole community, people that live in Torquay, and how it's affected them. And I think also, he was a very likable chap. I think he was, we talk about Jamie Reid, don't we? The King of Park Lane and stuff. But I think Tony Bedeau quite liked going out for a bit of clubbing, didn't he? Around the clubs and that. And obviously, everybody. I don't think you're not going to hear a bad word about him, are you? He really was. The other thing I noticed, that not just Twitter, not just the socials, but the national press, the Daily Mirror picked up on it. And I read a quote. I mean, they were quoting him. Apparently, it was something that he said back in 2020 about, I love Torquay. I grew up from the age of 16 and became a man there. I met people inside. What else did he say? And outside the club, who warmed to me, and the fans were good to me too. I am a Torquay United man. And I mean, I'm welling up now, because it really is the length of time that he spent at this club that all of us absolutely love and adore. It's kind of generational, isn't it? And the fact that he was 45 years old, the fact that we've got Dean Moxey, who's nearly 40, still playing. Who's to say that Tony Bedeau couldn't have put his boots back on and come out and still show a bit of pace and a bit of skill and that, and you probably could have still played football, but only he obviously chose not to. He retired, and it was shocking yesterday. I'm part of the WhatsApp group, the Torquay Talk, and it sort of sifted to our WhatsApp group about somebody'd seen something on a forum, and I think we were all disbelieving, weren't we? We didn't want to believe it, and it was, oh gosh, what? How on earth is that? But it's true. It's happened. It's a real tragedy, and I'm totally and utterly, I really do feel it.
That's lovely put, Rachel. Funny you say that, because I remember, I think it's a Torquay Legends match in about 2017, 2018, around there. And I remember watching him play. And I actually turned to my dad when we were watching it. I said, he could still easily probably contribute something to our first. He was amazing on that wing, constantly just up and down it. You could see how much he enjoyed playing the game still as well. It was brilliant to watch. Yeah, that was lovely. Tom, anything to add before we take us into Kelly's Corner and we see what other Torquay fans have got to say?
Well, I mean, I was only about 10 or 11 when I first started following Torquay United, so in the early 2000s. But you could see what a lovely person that he was, both on and off the pitch, even then. I mean, I think what's been said already, just epitomises the man. Like what a legend of this football club, involved in so many big moments. Surviving at Barnet on the last day. Going up to League One in 2004, great escapes, and then testament to him coming back to Torquay when we were struggling in League Two, and then into the National League for the first time, and trying to get us back into the Football League. We all talk about Kevin Hill being Mr. Torquay United. Well, I tell you what, Tony Bedow's right up there as well as being Mr. Torquay United. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure on Saturday he's going to get a wonderful send off from everyone. And you don't have to look too far away, even from a younger supporter standpoint now. Like, you'll know someone who's aware of Tony Bedeau and the impact he's made on the football club. And, I was very privileged yesterday to be able to chat on Radio Devon briefly and discuss a bit about Tony Bedeau. And thinking back to it, the goal that he scored but wasn't given in the Birmingham home game in the FA Cup sticks in my mind.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It was a foul on the Blues keeper, wasn't it? I mean, I'm no archivist. I applaud, and I'm always amazed at how some people can remember. Oh, do you remember that goal in 2004 when I struggle to remember, last Saturday's game, at Plainmoor, but I do remember that game. I had a raging hangover. I remember that.
That could be any game, Rachel.
Well, yeah. But it was quite early on, wasn't it? And
Woodsy smacking the post with that shot.
Yeah.
Was it the ref blew for a foul on the keeper? But
generous.
And then the second half, we pulverized Blues, didn't we? We were absolutely all over them, and Tony Bedeau had a brilliant game. And then, of course, we got the replay, and I did travel up to St Andrews to watch, and they didn't really turn up. There was a few fits and starts and what have you, and Tony actually had a pretty quiet game. But yeah, that was and interesting. You were saying about, I was at Barnet as well. The 1 point enough, but it almost felt like that the winner takes all, and that game had everything. But he was great that day. Really skillful, and at the full time whistle, that Meccano away end at the Barnet ground that somehow managed to stay up with thousands of Torquay supporters. I mean, that it was a crazy away end. It was, I'm sure it was swaying, but we just legged it, ran onto the pitch. I had a piece of Barnet turf I watered it, and it kept going for about 2 years. But I ran onto the pitch, and we went up to Kevin Hill, to David Graham, John Gale, who he missed an absolute sitter, but
in the goal, John.
Yeah.
But Tony Bedeau, I can remember I had a couple of drinks that day, and I can remember my head just thinking, "You are a beautiful looking man," but I didn't say that to him. I just went, "Tony Bedeau," like that to him, and he smiled, and that was an amazing memory. But yeah, it's these momentous occasions for me that I remember. I mean, as I say, I do applaud people who can remember games that weren't necessarily, sort of much resting on them, but they can still remember goals and stuff. But he was a cracking player, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, I could only go to games periodically back in my early times as a fan in the school holidays, but he was just. And the comments that I'll read shortly, and the comments we've seen already, he's just a wonderful bloke, and involved in so many, of our big moments in our history in the early and mid 2000s. And it's just so sad. It always seems, what is it? It's the nice ones always go early. Unfortunately, it's going to be, it's such sad news, and all our thoughts with Tony's family and closest friends. Football's lost a wonderful person, and so has Torquay United. And there's going to be a minute's applause on Saturday, and I know that'll be well applauded by everyone. So it's very sad, a very sad day in the history of Torquay United Football Club, and we all send our condolences.
And he'll always be a part of our history going forward as well. He's always going to be a great Torquay United story of what you can achieve at a club like Torquay United. You know, such an inspirational figure, his career. So fantastic. And yeah, as I say, I'm a younger fan, of course, and I wasn't lucky enough to see him in like the sort of prime days, but just what I hear from like speaking to like my dad and everyone like that, just see sort of first names. And every time we did a dream team on Talkie Talkie, it's always right wing. You know, this sums up everything, doesn't it? But Tom, we've had loads of lovely comments and memories. Do you take us away if you want and read through what we've got?
Yes, thank you to everyone who has sent their comments in. Lots of responses. So I've got first one from Christopher Bundy, who says, I have many on the pitch memories of Tony, but off the pitch, he gave me my greatest. Tony and Rodney Jack came to my school for a kickabout with a bunch of us, signing autographs and chatting with everyone. Tony was such a nice, funny guy. Getting the chance to have a kick around with my two favourite players made this my favourite memory of Tony. He will be missed. Says he was such a shy gentleman and a real man's man at the same time, if that makes sense. Another legend that it was my pleasure to provide a perfect pitch for, and another great personality who thanked us. That shows he had great character. Rest in peace, Tony. There's Neil Kluwer who says, watching the goals play at Shrewsbury's old Gay Meadow, he came over to the supporters and signed my programme, a diamond geezer. Danny Burnell says, a good old-fashioned beat your man winger. Remember him scoring the only goal away at Wycombe in March 2006, which contributed massively to the Ian Atkins Great Escape, a great servant to our football club. Nick Potkin says, Helen Chamberlain on Sacrarium signing Bedeau to the Pink Panther tune. I just love the guy. James Bailey says that disallowed goal versus Birmingham that wasn't, mainly just his workmate and desire a childhood favourite. Also just singing Bedeau to the tune of the Pink Panther everywhere in League One and also in League Two. And then that was all the ones on Facebook. So thank you, everyone. And plenty more on Twitter as well. And we start with Sam Jones, who says, the first ever game I went to was Torquay 2, Wycombe 2 in 2005. He absolutely ran the show that day and scored the second goal. As an 11-year-old, I was obsessed. Even so, I made sure I always bought him on whichever FIFA team I was managing at the time. Clive, who says, I don't know Tony, but everyone loved him. He won us a penalty to settle a cup tie looted in the 90s. Limbs, rest in peace. Dan from Torquay says, Tony was one of the few lads that you would see out in the town, in Clare's or the venue. He would chat and say hello. Jimmy Agri, Tony and Ryan Northmore upstairs in Clare's. Saturday night after a home game near the left end of the bar. Always there and always chatted. Rest in peace, Tony. We've got Jonathan Jones, who says Tony Bedeau was his first Torquay hero. We've got Joe from Off the Line blog, who says, my first ever game as a Torquay United fan, sitting in what was now Bristow's bench. His testimonial versus Plymouth Argyle, remember him warming up on the bench with his young lad. I was only 5 years old at the time, but that was my first introduction to the goals. Robert Youssef says, part of that first Torquay team I remember, and an LMA manager, 2003 legend. Can't believe it. Not many players play over 300 games for Torquay, especially in his lifetime. Rest in peace, Tony. Mark Lewis says, just my absolute favourite player when I began supporting the club in 1997. Him and Jason Roberts was the dream team. Still has my shirt he kindly signed, which is a bit faded for him at a pre-season friendly at Tiverton. And he's posted a picture on Twitter of the shirt and Beddo's signature on there. Jamie Cole says, Tony was at the heart of the team that made me fall in love with this club and football in general back in the 02-03 season. And for that, I will be forever grateful. A true goals legend and hero to many fans. Words can't describe how sad this news is. Rest in peace, Tony. Wayne Davidson. Sadly, I didn't get to see Tony play. It was a bit before his time as a Torquay supporter. But wow, 374 appearances. Has to be a Torquay legend. Rest in peace, Tony. Andy Watson says, was just looking up some stats. He scored 17 goals in the 99-2000 season, a very decent return, more than Jack when we got into the playoff final or Sills when we went up. Tends not to come up in discussions about best players, but perhaps he was underappreciated. Lee Cross says, rest easy, Tony, gone way too soon. Daryl Smith says, he got my 16th birthday card signed by the whole team back in 97. I was so happy when my aunt and uncle gave it to me and explained that Tony made it happen. Such a legend taken too soon. There's Johnny who says he babysitted for me and my bro one evening when we were toddlers, a Torquay United legend. Rodney Marshall says, I'm not a Torquay fan, but came to play more on a regular basis in the mid to late 90s when Tony was starting out. His pace and trickery enlivened even the dullest of games. Chris Waddle was a big fan of his, and that says a lot about United's live wire international striker. And finally, Bergnager says, November 2002, a 5-0 victory over Boreham Wood. What a team that was. My fondest memory of Tony Bedeau was the perfectly good goal against Birmingham City in the FA Cup in 2005 that was chalked off for some reason. I mean, what else can you say, everyone? I mean, it's just thank you everyone for all of the comments. And again, it just goes to show how loved and respected Tony Bedeau was. And just some fantastic memories there. And like we said, we've lost a fantastic character and a great representative of our football club.
Funny you mentioned that Shrewsbury game. My mate Dav, who I've been going to watch Torquay with since 1996, mentioned that yesterday in a message. That was the first away game we went to on the supporters bus. So what were we? Probably 16. That was the first. That was. I think I'm right in saying he scored what was the quickest goal in the Football League that year. It was the first day of the season, and we scored in the first minute or so. And Mick O'Brien took a free kick in the top corner in the second half, and that's the first away goal that we saw together on a Torquay away trip, for which there have been many in subsequent years. So yeah, he has the honour of that first goal we saw together away from home as well.
I was working for a very well-known firm of solicitors on the Vaughan Parade there, and we'd heard that because there was a book out. It was 1899 to 1999, a history of Torquay United, and Mike Holgate, the author of the book, was book signing, and there was going to be a couple of Torquay United players there. So I mentioned to a couple of the girls and the lads at this well-known firm of solicitors, we'll nip up in our lunch break, and we did nip up, and Tony Bedeau was there. He was signing, as was, I think, Kevin Hill. Effin Williams was there. Now it struck me at how I fangirled then. I was wow, and as they were signing the book, and just saying about how such a pleasure to meet you, and Tony Bedeau looked quite sort of a bit embarrassed and smiled, and Effin Williams was the same. But these players to us were the thing about Tony Bedeau, particularly for me, he was like he had a certain charisma that you kind of get now, don't you? Quite often with like Premier League footballers and what have you, but not so often with lower league and what have you. But he did have that sort of star quality, that little bit of he was a very good looking chap. But so that was another lovely memory about meeting him, not knowing the chap, not knowing him, but appreciating how good a footballer he was. But then going to a book signing, it was W.H. Smith's, I think it was, and there was other players there as well. But and the girls that I went up with, there was a girl called Janine who I used to go to some of the games with, but a couple of the other girls, again, not particularly interested in football, but they just thought, we'll come up with you just for the just to get out for half an hour, and they were really taken by him. So, who was he again? That's Tony Bedeau. It was so yeah. Again, the charisma, that star quality that he kind of had, didn't he? That's not to do down like Effin Williams, who equally cracking, very good player. But it's just that star that shone. You know what I'm saying about Tony Bedeau? He just had that little bit of X factor, didn't he? That we're kind of getting this season, aren't we, with Omar Musa, and I think that's why players like Omar Musa are so popular, because they just have that knack of, there's just something about them. They have that little bit of charisma that they bring to the game, and they bring to a game, and Tony Bedeau had that in abundance. He had it in bundles.
Yeah.
So,
and he
represented
his country, didn't he, for 4 times?
4 times.
What
international
player. Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. I mean, there we are. I mean, unless we've got anything else to add, I think the Yellow Army has summed it up brilliantly there. Tony Bedeau, what a man, what a legend, and he will sorely be missed by everyone around Torquay United. Thank you for watching.